Hello everyone, Takacs here. Thank you for joining me. I was a former swimsuit designer and a pattern maker for about 40 years, and I, just like you, started making masks and, more importantly, patterns and videos to help you streamline your process. And that's what this channel is all about. We're here to save you time, money, and energy and help you improve your sewing skills. And today I'm going to share with you my favorite mask, and I am so excited to share this with you. Now, it's been delayed a little bit. I designed this pattern back in July, but I went through proof of concept and I sent it out to all of my friends coast to coast in ages 8 to 80. I had all the sizing checked, and I sent it out to people that work out, that go to the gym, people that are run, people that work a long day like a casino worker that had to wear a mask all day, and I got proof of concept from the feedback from all of them, and I made the tweaks necessary, checked off all the boxes that would be troubleshooting for someone new making a pattern, and I came up with the dream mask. And I'm so excited to share this with you because it is the perfect solution between compliance and comfort, and it's something that you reasonably can wear for long periods of time. And I'm proof of that because recently my mother was sent to the ER and she had congestive heart failure, and I grabbed all my masks and I went, and I was at the hospital every day for 5 days in a row for long days, 8-10 hour days, sitting there holding her hand. And the one mask that I was able to wear the entire 8-hour, 10-hour day unequivocally was the dream mask, and it was just so comfortable. I even fell asleep in it. And that's why I'm calling it the dream mask, because it is that comfortable that you can sleep in it. It's also chic and cool and fashionable and stylish, and it's something that looks like a scarf, and that's the intent when I designed it, is I wanted something elegant that looked like a scarf but would function as a face mask for you. So I think it's time to get started on our tutorial. Our tutorial is going to last just a little bit long because I want to be methodical in this presentation and make sure that all of the new sewers, as well as the veteran sewers, are picking up some skills about sewing nylon, lycra, spandex, and knits, which is kind of like a 5-letter word, lycra, for a lot of people that sew. They're intimidated by it, and you do not need to be, and that's part of my mission here, is to help you overcome those challenges. So let's do it. Let's sew. I'm excited and to get to the cutting table and show you how to put this beauty together. Hey everyone, I've laid out my beautiful stretch knit fabric and I have my pattern templates ready to go. I am making sure that I'm laying my pattern on the fold, and that I am additionally making sure that the stretch is going across the face, the width of the pattern, and also the length of the ear loops. When you're choosing a fabric, a knit, a spandex, a lycra, the best way to check it is to check the stretch. It should stretch both ways, but one way will stretch greater, and that's the way that we want to make sure to cut our pattern. A good way to test is to put the fabric in your hands and put it between your two thumbs, and then just pull. And if the fabric stretches from 1 inch to 3 or 4 inches, this is the perfect fabric for this mask. You're good to go. And now I'm got my pattern pieces laid out, and I'm going to use a few weights. I'm going to set those pattern pieces right up against each other, because we want to streamline in the cutting here, and this will save some cuts. And with the rotary mat and wheel, one of our favorite tools, we're just going to do a nice smooth cut. Lycra, spandex, knits, they all cut beautifully with the rotary mat and wheel. And now I'm just going to make a slight adjustment here with my weights, because I can just go straight up the middle. I make my patterns out of a plastic, and I have an entire video on how to do that. You can check that out, how to transfer all your patterns, face mask patterns, to plastic. You can look for that in my hack playlist. I'm going to make a move here on the pattern just to save fabric. Forgive me if this looks a little awkward. It is the camera. I'm trying to make sure that you can see everything that I'm doing. The next step in the process here is for us to use the same template for the pattern to make the lining. And instead of cutting on the fold, we're just going to cut a single panel. But I am also going to modify it and just cut it a little bit short. We want to take off about 3/8 of an inch on either side, or 3/4 of an inch on one side. So instead of making another pattern, I'm just going to cut this a little bit shy and mark my centers with a notch, and that's easy to do. You just fold your pattern in half after you've cut it, your pattern piece, and just with a little snip of shears or the wheel, you can notch it. Now I take the lining and I'm just going to lay it right into the dream mask. And I am matching up my notches in the center and smoothing everything out with my hands. And you can see the goal here is to just fold that right into our upper and lower hems. The fabric grows a little bit, so we want it to be smaller. You can also fold it in half like that and make a filter pocket as opposed to a lining. Completely up to you, your choice, whatever works best for you. I personally like the full liner, and so I am going to take some pins and just pin that in. And then the first step in making the mask is going to be sewing this back seam, and you can use a straight stitch across the back at 1/4 inch, a serge, or a small zigzag, whichever you prefer at 1/4 inch. We have both pieces, the ear loop string and the back closure. And this is really simple. We're just going to fold it in half. We're going to do a straight stitch or a zigzag at 1/4 inch. You can also use a serger. And then for the ear loop, we're going to fold it in half at 1/4 inch and do either a small zigzag or a serge. And we're at the sewing machine. I've got my smaller pieces ready and prepped. I have done a serger and turned right side out the back closure. I've got that back seam exposed, ready to sew, and also the ear loop string. You can do this with a small zigzag on your sewing machine. I chose to do a serger today, and then I used my Dritz loop turner to turn it right side out. I'm going to give one of these away. Leave me a comment in the comments below, and you could win this, and I'll be mailing it out to you. Yay! We love prizes. Okay, let's talk about this removable nose wire. So I think it's important to have a removable nose wire because not everybody wants one. And so this design I've created, we started with 5 inches of wire. I bent it to a 1/2 inch on either side. And with a little hot glue and gross grain ribbon, I've added that little black tab that you can see I'm twirling. And I put a little bit of glue on the opposite side, even though the wires are bent, just to soften it a little bit when it's exposed inside the mask, so it's not prodding or poking anyone. Taking out my pins, I did sew the mask close with a 1/4 inch serge, and I have basted in by pinning the lining. You saw me doing that earlier at the cutting table. We are getting ready to sew. I just want you to see this all pinned together. Because the jersey stretches a little bit, you just want to make sure that you have it very nicely pinned in, ready to go for your sewing machine. You can also fold it in half and create that filter pocket if that's what you choose. We're about ready to get started. I am going to set my machine to a shell tuck, and a shell tuck is a stretch stitch, and it is 1, 2, and then a zigzag. 1, 2 straight stitch and then a zigzag. I'm going to pop in an image here for you of it so that you can see what that is. I've also put in a stretch needle, a needle that's perfect for jersey stretch knits, and I have a plastic presser foot. And my presser foot is one of my hacks that I've used for many years. That plastic presser foot works lovely with stretch fabrics. And this shell tuck stitch I'm using as a basting stitch. I just want to baste that lining right into the hem to make sure that we have it good and secured. Now I'm sewing this stretch fabric. You notice I'm not pulling anything. I'm not being overly aggressive stretching that fabric. I'm just sewing just like I would normally sew anything else, just keeping everything nice and flat and smooth before it goes under the needle. Again, just keeping everything nice and smooth. I am using ballpoint pens today because they will not harm the jersey knit fabric. They actually work beautifully with them. That's another tip. And just very, very easy. This mask actually sews up in probably under 10 minutes once you know how to make it. So I've done that shell tech on the top, and I'm going to complete it on the bottom as well. And you can see that stitch there, and it does stretch with the fabric, and how beautiful that is. That's just such a great basting stitch. You couldn't use a straight stitch here because the threads would break whenever the garment was pulled. So that's why this is ideal for this particular mask and this part of the construction of the mask. When we come back around, we'll use a 3-step zigzag, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we go in to do our top stitch. But right now I want to talk about this nose wire. And again, this is optional. It is not listed in the pattern, just so you know. I want to talk to you about it in the video though, so that you have something to refer back to. I've cut the wire 5 inches, folded it to 4 inches, little glue on one side, gross grain ribbon and glue on the other side, and there is a direct intent and purpose for that gross grain ribbon, and I'm going to explain it to you now. So the first thing I want to do is I want to find the center of my mask, the top center, or where your nose would be. And so I found the top center. I am going to pin that as my indication for top center. And then from top center, since my wire is 4 inches long, I'm going to go 1 7/8 of an inch from top center, and I'm going to mark another pin. And that pin that I'm putting in at 1 7/8 of an inch is going to be the end of the pocket for the nose wire. I want it a little bit shorter than half of the 4 inches because we want that wire to fit in there snugly. We don't want to have a lot of wiggle room in there. So 1 7/8 from center, and that's going to be exactly where I'm going to begin sewing my top stitch. But before I do that, I am going to make sure that I measure where I'm going to end my top stitch. And I'm just showing this to you visually. You can see I've got that ribbon in there to indicate where it's going to go in the pocket. And then on the opposite side of that, the ribbon's 3/8 of an inch, but I'm going to give myself a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to mark myself a pin going the opposite direction. And that's essentially going to be my pocket for my nose wire. So I'm going to begin at the pin on the furthest on the right, and I'm going to end on the pin that's on the left. And that way it creates that pocket for me. And the gross grain ribbon, once the wire is in the mask, will keep the wire from moving anywhere. It's not going to get lost in the hem. It's going to stay nice and flush and right in place, and the ribbon won't bother anyone when it's being worn. So it's the perfect solution. Now we're going to do a 3-step zigzag, and this is my go-to stitch for sewing anything with stretch for the top stitch or the final stitch. It's 1 2 3 to the left and 1 2 3 to the right. And the beauty of this stitch is it stretches out into a straight line when pulled. So when somebody's pulling that garment over their head, or if it's a skirt and you're pulling it up over your hips, or yoga pants or a tank top or anything like that, The glory of the stitch is that it does stretch with the garment and it does not break. And so many people are unaware of this stitch and do not use it, and it's the perfect stitch for anything that has to go over the body. And this is why we used it in the swimsuit factory, and every swimsuit that went out the door of the hundreds of thousands of swimsuits that we made we used this stitch. And our swimsuits were notoriously known for lasting forever. And that's another thing about this stitch, is that it holds the garment well, and it will hold the construction of it, and it will make the garment last forever. And you can see here, I'm just, doing a normal top stitch. I'm just keeping everything nice and flat and flush. Right here, I'm going to turn the tube right side out, and you'll know when you get to that point that you need to turn it right side out. I'm pulling it with just a little stretch just to flatten it out, not to change the elasticity of the garment or the shape of the garment, but I'm just holding it flat, and I'm pulling it only as needed just to flatten out everything underneath. And now I see the pin that I used to mark the center, so I know that I'm coming up at the end of my pocket. And I want to end it right there at that yellow pin. And a little back tack. And when you do a back tack on this, you do not have to do much. Just a little song and dance, and you're good. And we'll clean and trim. The girls in the factory used to use clippers, but I don't know what it is. I've been using scissors my whole life. I'm just not a fan of clippers. Here we go. And you can see just how beautifully this is just going to fit right into this mask. And I did intentionally make the ribbon a little longer than needed. I think that's about 1.5 inches total, and it's probably 3/4 of an inch on each side. I'm going to take my pinking shears here and trim it up. But you can see, look at how gorgeous that is. And you've got a perfect balance of wire on both sides. It's pliable, it's bendable, it's soft, and it's removable, which is such a huge thing. I mean, people are going to put these through the washing machine. So there, I'm taking my pinking shears, and I'm just making myself a nice decorative end to that ribbon. I do not want to cut it too short, because we don't want it to get lost up in that hem. You want to leave at least, I'm going to say 1/2 inch, 3/8 of an inch below the seam, just so that, and you can see the ribbon as I'm tugging on it, it's not moving, and it's going to keep that wire right in place. Great hack. Gotta love it. You gotta love it. Fantastic. We are now going to run a 3-step zigzag hem across the bottom of this mask. And I'm going to speed things up a little bit for the sake of hopefully you're not falling asleep. I do like to show everything being made. I think that's important. Note that I'm using my presser foot for my seam allowance on the right, and the inside of my presser foot is showing me where my 3/8 of an inch hem is as I'm coming around. Okay, we're going to remove that nose wire and set it to the side so that we can put the ear loops in. The first thing I'm going to do is find that seam, that back center seam. I've got it here on my right side. And then from that, it's going to help me find my front center, or where my nose would ride when wearing the mask. So I'm going to mark that with a pin. And I'm using ballpoint pins today. You can see my nose wire pocket is there, so I know for sure that I've got the top of the mask and not the bottom. Now I'm going to take the pin from the front center and the back seam. You can see that's lined up, and I am going to have located my left center and my right center, and I'm going to mark both of those with a pin. And now on the right. And that pin is just dead center between the front and the back on the sides. I'm going to remove the front pin, the pin that was where the nose would be, just so that there's not any confusion whenever I'm making the mask. So now that I have the pin on the left center and the right center of the mask, I am going to match that pin up with 2 on my tape measure. Because the idea here is, and I'm going to zoom in so that you can see this. Sometimes it's fun being the seamstress and the camera person. Oh, forgive me. So here we go. As you can see, I have the 2 marked up with that pin, and I am going to use tailor's chalk, and I am going to mark it 1 inch and at 4 inches. So I am going 2 inches on either side of that pin. Again, I'm marking the 2 to the pin that I put in for the left center, and I am marking it right there at the beginning of the tape measure and also at 4. Perfect. And I love tailor's chalk because it just brushes away. You don't have to worry about it. And now I am going to take that ear loop string piece that I made earlier, and I am going to cut this into strips that are 4.5 inches long. So as you noticed on the mask, we marked it at 4 inches, 2 inches on either side of that pin. And we want this ear loop string just to be just a tad longer, just to allow for the sewing of it into the mask. I'm going to use my ruler. It's a little awkward right now. I'm going to clean. First thing I'm going to do is clean that edge from serging to make sure that I have nice pretty loops. And then I'm going to make sure to cut both of these pieces 4.5 inches long. You can use shears. You can use your rotary mat and wheel. I'm using a ruler and the wheel today. If you do not have a rotary mat and wheel, great investment. I highly recommend. Okay, so we have our ear loop string, and you can see they're 4.5 inches long. Perfect. Children's a different size, but that's listed on the pattern. And now I am going to take those ear loop strings and I'm going to pin them into place where I marked it earlier. I'm going to start by making sure that the seam is on the inside of the mask and that the seam is facing up and away from the mask. And with that first marking on the left center side, where I marked it with tailor's chalk, I'm just going to pin it. And then I'm going to go over to the other marking that was at 4, and I'm going to pin it. This pattern is online at the streamlineseamstress.com. You can get the pattern. It comes in 4 adult sizes, 2 children sizes. And then you can see I'm just going to straight stitch. I'm going to use a straight stitch across the top and the bottom of both of those ear loop strings on both sides. And you can see how flush that becomes with the mask when I pull it. That's exactly what we're looking for. We don't want it loosey-goosey. We don't want it too tight and for it to be challenging the integrity of the mask. And now I'm just going to do a straight stitch. Just back tack to support it, give it a little strength. And that first straight stitch I'm doing is parallel with the edge of the mask. The next straight stitch I'm going to do is going to be as close to that inside hem as I can get to be parallel with it. I'm going to leave a little bit of a flap of that string overhanging so that I can come back and just trim it off. Perfect. Needle up. And then I am just going to move forward and do the other part of the ear loop, the other side, without cutting or breaking any strings. There's really no reason to. Back tack to secure. and back tack to secure. Needle up, I'm going to pull away, and then I'm moving it over so that it's to the close to the inside seam edge. So we've got like railroad tracks, so one across the top and one across the bottom, and I'm just trimming off the excess to make it flush with the hem. Snipping all the threads. And I did the other side, and then just look how gorgeous that turned out. And it's so comfortable. The fact that the ear loops are made out of the same fabric makes this mask amazing. It is so comfortable, and it's got such a nice body and weight and drape to it. It's not tight or, I don't like turtlenecks that are too tight. I think most women don't. I mean, we look great in them, but if they're too tight, they're uncomfortable. So now I'm going to take this back closure, and I've got the outside seam facing me, and I am just going to gather up that back seam in my hand with the good side facing out, and the back seam of the back closure is also facing me, and I'm just going to wrap it. We're going to just wrap that around so that we have the good sides being sewn together, and that back seam of that back closure is facing out. And this is just a straight stitch. This is not a stress point. You don't have to worry about a stretch stitch here. I'm going straight across. I'm just making sure that that mask is clearing my stitches, that I'm not sewing the mask into this back closure. It's just supposed to be a loop that goes around it to gather it up. And I'm sewing at 5/8 of an inch. I think it's a little different for the children's sizing once again, but that pattern's available online at thestreamlineseamstress.com, or if you'd like for me to make you a dream mask, you can get one. And that was it. I'm done with the machine. I'm just going to clip at 1/4 inch. So I've already prepped my needle and I am ready to go. We're going to just do a few stitches here. Here's a hack for you. Candle wax. Run your threads through it. It will help your threads glide through any fabric, especially if you have a difficult fabric or something that's going to be a challenge for you to sew. That's a hack that I learned in the drapery factory to share with you today. So I'm coming in on the inside of one side on the right, and I am just going to come back around and catch both pieces. This is going to be really fast, and I'm only doing this by hand. You can use a serger to serge this edge off if you want. I'm sure a lot of you will, but sometimes I like to just hand sew just to get a break from the machines, and because it is the final touch here on the garment, it just adds that little bit of extra love. And I am just pulling that raw edge closed with a slip stitch. Just very quickly. I'm going to come back around on the other side. I want to come back to where the center seam was that I made when I serged this piece together originally. And this will be the final element in finishing the mask. So I'm going to leave that threaded, but now I want to find that back seam on the mask. And I want to find my center of the back seam. And I'm going to do that by just, putting the pieces together, top and bottom, and then finding my center. I'm going to put a little pin in. Again, I'm using ballpoint pins. They do not pierce jersey or knit fabrics. They're perfect for this. And then I am just going to create a bridge. I took my needle and I just went into that back center seam, and I'm creating a little bridge here. And the idea here is to just tack these two pieces together. I don't want to sew them on the machine. It's kind of bulky and thick with the mask. You can if you want to, but it's so much easier and faster to do this with a sewing machine. I'm going to try and get this focus point here for you. There we go. And now you can see I am just tacking those pieces together. I've got about 1/4 inch between both pieces, and I'm creating this little bridge with a string. And I'm going to go, there we go, zoom in for you so that you can see it a little better. Probably, I don't know, 10, 12 times around, just to get a nice thick string, and then I'll be knotting this off soon. As soon as I feel that I've got a nice secure hold of those two pieces. Again, we want this back closure just to float a little bit. We want it to be movable. I didn't want it to be stationary, and this is why we're attaching it like this. Knotting off again, running the thread through. And then all we'll need to do is just trim and turn everything right side out. And we're going to have a beautiful mask. And you just need to keep turning this right side out until all the twisty things are untwisted. And then you're going to have a beautiful mask here. And that back closure creates a nice bow. It gathers the fabric in the back that keeps it low on the neck and comfortable underneath of your hair. And the removable wire, I'm going to put this back in just to show you how easily this just slips right in and will stay in place. You can bend it into shape to give it a nice little V in the front. That tab will keep it from moving. And the beautiful, comfortable little ear loops of the same fabric. I think that's like the perfect touch on this mask, and they're not binding or pulling, they're just comfortable. This was the first mask I could make for my husband that he actually said he can wear. And he just, well, he doesn't want to wear a mask, period. But, and then look, you can also make a headband out of it. The young girls, I know that they like that. But that's my dream mask. I hope you love it as much as I do. And I've enjoyed this long tutorial, and I hope that you have too. I apologize to all of our veteran sewers, but I hope you new sewers, I hope you picked up some skills and you learned something. So I hope that you enjoyed learning how to make the dream mask today. If you did, be sure to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring the little bell so that you'll be notified when I post a new video. And if you would like to make this mask for your family and friends, or if you'd like for me to make a mask for you or someone that you love, you can find that all at thestreamlineseamstress.com. And be sure to stay tuned. I've got 2 of my favorite videos coming up for you that are going to help you streamline your sewing. Everyone, God bless, take care, be well, and keep sewing. It's good for the soul.